wasn't brought back in to play our final practice match against reigning premiers Richmond in Carlton, where we got smacked by a whopping 70 points. I started the season proper on the outer two and missed games against Gold Coast and St Kilda. In round 3 against Melbourne at the MCG, I got my chance for redemption. After initially being named as an emergency, I was brought in to play alongside Scott Thompson when Robbie Tarrant pulled out with hamstring soreness. Within seconds of the game starting, the Demons booted the ball long and high into their forward line, looking for Bailey Fritsch or Christian Petrarca to mark it. I had left my direct opponent having identified where the ball was going and leapt from the back of a pack to take a soaring mark right in front of their goal. It was a real confidence booster for me and set the tone for the rest of the afternoon. I was also able to line up Jordan Lewis with a nice hip and shoulder as I was trying desperately to prove to Brad and the coaches that I had the aggression and determination to play as a defender regularly. While we ultimately lost the match, I ended up with 5 contested marks, 7 tackles, and a contender for Mark of the Year after sitting on Fritsch's head late in the first term. It was a productive day for a defender, and I felt like I had passed an important test. My effort against Melbourne was good enough to see me hold my spot the following week against Carlton, despite the fact that Robbie Tarrant was declared fit to return. I was getting games and building my form slowly when disaster struck. A Hawthorn player accidentally landed on my foot and caused a small crack in my navicular, which is a small bone that sits in the middle of the foot between the ankle and the toes. Breaks in this area are troublesome and can take a long time to heal because the navicular is a bone that bears weight. Navicular injuries are notorious for ending football players' careers prematurely because they're so delicate and hard to repair. After an assessment by the club's doctor during the week and a subsequent visit to a specialist, we decided to continue the season without surgical intervention, which was a risk. The thought process was that if the fracture broke all the way through the bone, we would get it fixed. But until then, it would be more of a pain management issue for me. So before each game that year, I had an injection in my foot to numb the pain. At the 3/4 time break each week, the pain-killing medication would wear off and severe pain would kick in. Some of my teammates who knew I was battling the injury at the late stages of the game would get behind me and implore me to grind the games out until the final siren, which I always did. The club's medical team members were astounded that the bone never cracked all the way through despite the fact that I played 15 games on it. I managed to play 18 games that season, by far eclipsing my previous best tally of 9 games in 2016. At the end of the 2018 season, I had surgery to repair the fracture, but I was in a good place football-wise and was about to put pen to paper on my new deal. Off the field, however, things were starting to unravel like never before. I was in a bad place mentally, but even I had no idea just how bad things were about to become. Row. I knew our pet lion was hungry because he hadn't eaten for several days. Sometimes my family didn't have anything to give him after feeding ourselves. On this particular day, the lion had a very distinct look about him that signaled, "Approach with extreme caution." And when he was in that sort of mood, it was a bad idea to go anywhere near his cage. Despite all the warning signs, I found a small piece of leftover meat for him and approached his small enclosure. It wasn't much, but I knew it would get him through the next few days until we could spare him some more. A naive 7-year-old, I slowly moved towards the steel bars. "Here you go," I uttered nervously and watched as he got up off the ground and came towards me with his ears folded back slightly. He seemed to become relatively docile and didn't growl or gnash his teeth, his usual signs of aggression. He was panting, though, and looked very tired. He turned his head towards me and our eyes locked. I sensed he knew I was there to help him. I reached out with the lump of meat in my hand and he started sniffing the air. The scent of sun-baked, rotting animal flesh suddenly brought him to life. We were less than half a meter away from each other, my hand edging ever closer to his mouth. I pushed the meat through the bars. His eyes stayed fixed on mine and his mouth began to open. What happened next is a blur. I remember him lunging forward and I instinctively let go of the meat and fell backwards to the ground. There was blood everywhere. It was on my clothes and smeared across the bars of the cage. I looked down at my left hand.